Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad-Bhagavatam, Canto number 1, chapter number 15, text number 30. Itam Bhagavata Gnanam Yattat Sangrama Murdhani Kala Karma Tamurudham Punaradhyagamat Prabho. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace by Charnarvinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Translation. Because of the Lord's pastimes and activities, and because of His absence, it appeared that Arjuna forgot the instructions left by the personality of Godhead. But factually this was not the case, and again he became Lord of his senses. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. A conditioned soul is enwrapped in his fruitive activities by the force of eternal time. But the Supreme Lord, when He incarnates on the earth, is not influenced by Kala or the material conception of past, present and future. The activities of the Lord are eternal and they are manifestations of His Atmamaya or internal potency. All pastimes or activities of the Lord are spiritual in nature. But to the layman, they appear to be on the same level with material activities. It so appeared that Arjuna and the Lord were engaged in the battle of Kurukshetra, as the other party was also engaged. But factually, the Lord was executing His mission of incarnation and association with His eternal friend Arjuna. Therefore, such apparently material activities of Arjuna did not drive him away from his transcendental position, but on the contrary, revived his consciousness of the songs of the Lord, as he sang them personally. This revival of consciousness is assured by the Lord in the Bhagavad Gita 18.65 as follows. Manmana bhava bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mame vaishya satyam te pratignya jani priyosi me. One should think of the Lord always. The mind should not forget Him. One should become a devotee of the Lord and offer obeisances unto Him. One who lives in that fashion becomes undoubtedly endowed with the blessing of the Lord by achieving the shelter of His lotus feet. There is nothing to doubt about this eternal truth, because Arjuna was his confidential friend. The secret was disclosed to him. Arjuna had no desire to fight with his relatives, but he fought for the mission of the Lord. He was always engaged in the execution of his mission only. And therefore, after the Lord's departure, he remained in the same transcendental position, even though it appeared that he forgot all the instructions of the Bhagavad Gita. One should therefore adjust the activities of life in pace with the mission of the Lord. And by doing this, one is sure to return back home, back to Godhead. This is the highest perfection of life. This ends the Bhaktivedanta. So in this verse, and especially in this purport, we see that Srila Prabhupada gives a wonderful rendition on the relationship of a jiva and Krishna. A jiva which is embodied in this material world, a jiva which is liberated. That's what we can actually see in this particular purport. So before that, we can see the words which are used by Arjuna is Gitam Bhagavata Gnanam. We hear this book as Bhagavad Gita. Right? We use the word Bhagavad Gita, not somebody else's song. It is a song of the Supreme Lord, which Arjuna has sung again here, that's what Prabhupada is saying. Arjuna has sung that same song which Bhagavan, Krishna has given. The word Bhagavata is used, not Bhagavata. It is Bhagavata. Bhagavata word is coming from the word Bhagavan. So what is the word Bhagavan means? Chadaishwarya Purna Bhagavan. Aishwaryasya Samagrasya Viryasya Yashasya Striyaha Sannami Itingana. So like that there are totally 6 types of opulences of Lord are there, which the Lord possesses completely, in whole. So Arjuna has reiterated the word Bhagavad Gita, Gitam Bhagavata Gnanam. So Arjuna has reiterated the word Bhagavan Uvacha. Who has used the word Bhagavan Uvacha so many times in the Bhagavad Gita? It is Vyasadeva himself, Sanjaya himself. Right? Sanjaya has used the word Sri Bhagavan Uvacha multiple times. The same thing, now Arjuna is again reiterating the same. So the word here used is Gitam Bhagavata. So what did Arjuna do after hearing the summary edition of the Bhagavad Gita? The verses from 10.8 to 10.11, the 4 verses, 8, 9, 10, 11 in the Bhagavad Gita. They are considered to be summary of entire Bhagavad Gita. So what did Arjuna say immediately after hearing these 4 verses? He says, Param Brahma, Parandama, Pavitram Paramam, Pavan, Purusham Shashvatam Divyam, Adidevam Ajam Vibhum, Ahustvam Rishyas Sarve, Devarshi Nardastata, Asito Devalo Vyasa Swayam Chaiva Bravishime. So what did Arjuna say after hearing the essence of the Bhagavad Gita, the 4 verses of the Bhagavad Gita, 10.8 to 10.11? Arjuna said, O Krishna, Bhavan, who are you? He is Param Brahma. Is not, we are all ordinary jivas, right? But Krishna is not only Brahman, he is Param Brahma and he is Parandama. His abode is the transcendental abode, Parandama. And Pavitram. Pavitram means he is always pure. Krishna is 100% pure. So that is Pavitram. Paramam Bhavan, he is transcendental. Okay. Next is Purusham, he is always the enjoyer. And Shashvatam, Krishna is eternal living entity. He is eternal. Unlike us who are enwrapped in this Maya, in this illusion. Shashvatam Divyam. And Krishna is transcendental. Divyam is again the word which means again he is transcendental. Adi Devam, he is among all the devatas, he is the first predominating devata. He is the Adi Deva. And Ajam and Vibhum. Ajam means he is unborn. And Vibhum means master of all. Prabhu and Vibhu are the 2 words which Krishna uses even in the 5th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, separating the master of the particular body called as Prabhu and the master of all the living entities called Vibhu. So Krishna also differentiates between the word Prabhu and Vibhu in Bhagavad Gita. So here the word Vibhu refers to Krishna because Arjuna is addressing to Krishna. So such Krishna who is transcendental, he has given this Gnanam, which is transcendental knowledge. Now, after hearing this transcendental knowledge, it appears that Arjuna has become Kala Kramo Tamorudam. It appears that Arjuna has forgotten this transcendental knowledge and he has become aggrieved. He is grief-stricken. Right? The last few verses we have seen how Arjuna was lamenting the disappearance of Lord Krishna, his beloved Lord Krishna. Right? We have seen that. So, how is that different from our forgetfulness? I was thinking, Arjuna also forgot. Then again he remembered Bhagavad Gita. So then again he gave up all his sorrow. So is it something similar to us? So today in the morning, during the Mangalarati time, we have this reading of the various Sanskrit verses in our Govinda temple. So today we have had this Astotra, chanting of the Krishna's Nama. So once you already have read it enough times, what we will do? We'll start rattling the names. Huh? Auto mode. It happened to me also. I was just kept on rattling the words after few. Then I realized probably by the time 70th or 75th words are coming, I realized what am I doing? I'm just rattling and I'm thinking something else. I'm thinking something else and I'm rattling Krishna's names. So is it that this kind of forgetfulness which we are here, is it similar to what the forgetfulness of Arjuna is? Because the words used is kala karma tamorudam. Tamorudam. The word, we should see the word-to-word translation in the translation given by Prabhupada. Kala karma, time and actions. Tamarudam, enwrapped by such darkness. Punah adhyagamat, revived them again. But in the translation, Prabhupada says, because of Lord's pastimes and activities and because of his absence, it appeared that Arjuna forgot the instructions left by personality of Godhead. The word used is, it appeared that Arjuna forgot the instructions left by the Lord. When we forget, what we remember, and when Arjuna forgets, what is remembering is important to be analyzed here. When we forget, we remember something, material things. Okay, some adhyatmika kleshas, adibhautik kleshas, whatever kleshas are bothering us at that time in our mind, those things we remember. Okay, but when Arjuna has apparently forgotten the instructions of the Bhagavad Gita, he is lamenting for the departure of Lord Krishna. In that way, his forgetfulness or remembrance is same. It is transcendental. We are in Mahamaya. Arjuna is in Yoga Maya. One Maya disconnects from Krishna, another Maya connects to Krishna. Even by his forgetfulness, Arjuna is remembering Krishna. But by our forgetfulness, we are remembering material, our attraction to materialism. Because of our constant attraction to the materialism, our forgetfulness or remembrance is all ending in materialism. Because of the pure devotion of Arjuna, either he remembers or he forgets, he is always in transcendence. His position is never diminished. That's why Prabhupada, this is the parampara understanding we get. In the translation. In the word-to-word meaning, there is some kind of a confusion is there. Apparently it looks like that, Arjuna has forgotten the instructions of given by Lord Krishna, and thus he came under Tamo Rudam. It apparently seems to us that Arjuna has come under Tamo Guna. No. It is not the case. Because a pure devotee is always pure. Who is Arjuna? He is Parishad devotee. Parishad devotees means what? They are constantly doing devotional service to the Lord. Wherever Lord Krishna goes, they will be doing that constant devotional service. So in that way, they will never forget Krishna. So if that is the case, means if Arjuna's Yogamaya has resulted in the instructions of Bhagavad Gita, right? It is not that, Arjuna is not aware of the instructions of the Bhagavad Gita. It is Krishna who chose Arjuna as his disciple at that point in time, and he wanted the instructions of the Bhagavad Gita to be given through Arjuna to the entire society, for the benefit of the entire society. Right? So if that is the case, means If that Yogamaya of Arjuna has resulted in coming of Bhagavad Gita, what is the reason of this Yogamaya of Arjuna? Wherein Arjuna is apparently forgot Krishna, apparently forgot the instructions of Krishna, and again remembered the Krishna's instructions and revived his consciousness. What is the meaning which we have? So the purpose of it is already elaborated by Srila Prabhupada in 2 verses before that. The importance of sound incarnation. I read here. The merciful Lord left behind him the great teachings of the Bhagavad Gita so that one can take the instructions of the Lord even when he is not visible to the material eyesight. Material senses cannot have any estimation of the Supreme Lord, but by his inconceivable power, the Lord can incarnate himself to the sense perception of the conditioned souls in a suitable manner through the agency of matter, which is also another form of Lord's manifested energy. Thus, the Bhagavad Gita or any authentic scriptural sound representation of the Lord is also the incarnation of the Lord. This apparent illusion of Arjuna has a purpose. The purpose is that even when Lord Krishna left this world, by his instructions, by taking advantage of his instructions, one can get associated with Lord Krishna. So the same Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, he said, Evam parampara praptam imam rajarashayo vidu, like that he mentioned. So by that what is he saying? That this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, we have just heard that in the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita was not necessarily only for Arjuna, it is for the population at large. So how will that population at large in the Kali Yuga will receive? Through the parampara system, right? Through the disciplic succession, this knowledge would be revealed by various spiritual masters who are as pure as Arjuna. Who are as pure as Arjuna, who has received that kind of instructions from their predecessor Acharya. That spiritual master will give this knowledge. In one place, Srila Prabhupada says that if the instructor, the teacher, is as good as Krishna, and if the receiver is as good as Arjuna, then that hearing is perfect. Okay, so now here we are understanding here that this transcendental knowledge is coming down in the disciplic succession, one after the other, through pure devotee spiritual masters. We are getting that. So how is that we can receive it even now today? How is that even now we can take advantage of it? Right? So now who are we? We are disciples. Correct? We are disciples of Srila Prabhupada. We are disciples of a spiritual master. So what is the one of the important thing which is required qualification of a disciple? One of the important things of a disciple? We hear that from Bhagavad Gita itself. The famous verse of Bhagavad Gita, Tadvidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upatekshanti te jnanam jnanina tattvadarshinaha. So that comes under the 4.34 verse. We'll just analyze that few words very nicely, slowly. So the words used is Tadvidhi. Tat means that knowledge. The knowledge of the different transcendental sacrifices which Krishna has given in the Bhagavad Gita. Tadvidhi pranipatena. By approaching a spiritual master. Pariprashnena. So we have to inquire, submissively inquire. So but before doing pariprashna, what we have to do? We have to do seva. Seva to the spiritual master. And then by doing seva to the spiritual master and by doing submissive inquiries, what will happen? Upadekshanti te jnanam. That jnana darshinaha, that tattva darshinaha, that's so pure devotee spiritual master who is constantly seeing the tattva, who is constantly seeing the absolute truth. That spiritual master, on being satisfied by the devotional service rendered by the disciple unto him, and on a submissive inquiries being conducted by the disciple, the spiritual master will give him the right transcendental knowledge. Upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattva darshinaha. Fine, very nice. So, how do we do this seva at this point in time? This is a very important question which we are all having. When Arjuna was there, Krishna was personally present at that time, so then he did some service and that's how Krishna was merciful and he has given him this knowledge. Then how about me? Now I don't have even access to Krishna. I don't even have access to Srila Prabhupada. So is that true? Do we have access to the Srila Prabhupada or not? So Prabhupada himself says that there are two types of seva. So why we are talking about two types of seva? Because seva is a quintessential element in disciplehood. Right? Quintessential. It is most essential principle for a disciple in the disciplehood. Because we have, by doing seva only, we will be able to go back to Godhead. By doing devotion service continuously. So now there are two types of seva are there, which Prabhupada has elaborated many places in his teachings and in his writings. One is Vani Seva and other is Vapu Seva. What is Vapu Seva? Serving the form of the spiritual master. Garlanding him and then doing all personal seva to the spiritual master. That is Vapu Seva. So some of the devotees who were fortunate, who were very near with Srila Prabhupada in those days, they were able to do personal service to Srila Prabhupada. Vapu Seva cannot be undermined anyway. But Vani Seva is also very important. Many places Prabhupada has emphasized Vani Seva more than Vapu Seva. Prabhupada says that like this, there is no difference between the spiritual master's instruction and the spiritual master himself. In his absence, therefore, his words of direction should be the pride of the disciple. From Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Leela 1.35 purport. So here Prabhupada is saying there is no difference between spiritual master and spiritual master's instruction. We have heard this in 2 or 3 verses before in the purport. Prabhupada is saying that any authentic scriptural sound representation of the Lord is also the incarnation of the Lord. There is no difference between the sound representation of the Lord and the Lord himself. Similarly, spiritual master and spiritual master's instruction, both are non-different. That's what Prabhupada himself has mentioned. In one place, Srila Prabhupada said, Vani Seva means meeting Supreme Personality of Godhead in the instructions of spiritual master. So we can meet Krishna in the instructions of Srila Prabhupada. That's another thing. In another place, Prabhupada said like this, the potency of transcendental sound is never minimized because the vibrator is apparently absent. I'll read again. The potency of transcendental sound is never minimized because the vibrator is apparently absent. Even though vibrator, say for example, even today we are able to remember Krishna, think about Krishna by remembering the instructions which Krishna has given in the Bhagavad Gita. Right? So similarly, the potency of transcendental sound. Say for example, now we call feelingly Krishna, we say. At that moment, at least, we feel that we are out of that particular entangled modes, right? We feel that. So similarly is the case with even the instructions of a pure devotee spiritual master like Srila Prabhupada. The potency of transcendental sound is never minimized because the vibrator is apparently absent. So then later on in 1975 in San Francisco in July 21st in a morning walk, between few devotees, Prabhupada had the following conversation. Narayana, so those disciples who don't have the opportunity to see you or speak with you, because now we are talking about in 1975, by this time Prabhupada already had more than 100 temples, a big society to manage, thousands of disciples. Apparently many disciples have not even seen Srila Prabhupada in person, right? So those disciples who don't have the opportunity to see you or speak with you, Srila Prabhupada, that he was speaking, Vani and Vapu. Even if you don't see his body, you take his words, Vani. There are many recollections of Prabhupada disciples who have just seen Prabhupada from very far distance. Some of them have not even met him. Some of them got initiated as late as October 1977, few days before Prabhupada left this planet. For them, they never felt that Prabhupada was missing in their lives. So how can we feel that Prabhupada is not there with us? So Prabhupada is saying that he was speaking Vani and Vapu. Even if you don't see his body, you take his words, Vani, Narayana. But how do they know they are pleasing you? This is a very important question. By seva, you want to know whether spiritual master is satisfied or not. Okay. Let's see what Srila Prabhupada says. If you actually follow the words of Guru, that means he is pleased. And if you do not follow, how can he be pleased? So this is an important thing. That's what Prabhupada has given us the principles. He has given us a construct called as institution. ISKCON's institution he has given. Along with that, how to run, he has given the principles. So now here Prabhupada is giving a principle. If you actually follow the words of Guru, that means he is pleased. And if you do not follow, how can he be pleased? Sudama, not only that, by your mercy is, not only that, but your mercy is spread everywhere. And if you take advantage, you told us once that we will feel the result. Prabhupada, yes. So Prabhupada's mercy, the Guru's mercy is spread everywhere. So what we have to do? We have to take advantage. If you don't take advantage, that is our problem, right? It's not the problem of the spiritual master. He is ready to give the mercy. And if you take advantage, you told us once that we will see the result. Sorry, the word used is you will feel the result. We'll feel that we are satisfying the spiritual master ourselves by following his instructions. Jai Dvaita. And if we have faith in what the Guru says, then automatically we'll do that. So faith is another important aspect. So we'll discuss about that. Faith. Srila Prabhupada. Yes, my Guru Maharaj passed away in 1936. And I started this movement in 1965. 30 years later. Then I am getting the mercy of Guru. This is Vani. See, after 30 years, after Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur left this planet, Prabhupada has made the attempt of going to the West. Finally, right, in 1965, Prabhupada is saying, even then he is getting the mercy of his Guru Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So now we are talking about a context wherein Prabhupada is saying, his Guru has left this world and still he is receiving the mercy of his spiritual master. Then I am getting that mercy of Guru. This is Vani. Even if Guru is not physically present, the words I am reading again, even if Guru is not physically present, if you follow the Vani, then you are getting help. Many places Prabhupada said that actually I have not done any wonder because it is all because of the great tapasya done by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur chanted how many names? At a stretch he has chanted it. He has taken the vow like that of a Haridas Thakur for many years. He chanted more than 3 lakh names a day. He chanted 1 billion names, 100 crore names, holy names of the Lord. So Prabhupada says many times that it is because of the Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's great tapasya, great desire that everything is already fulfilled. That he already said that even when he was in Jaladuta, Prabhupada said that by his mercy, everything is already achieved. So that is what Prabhupada is actually feeling. Okay. So if you follow the Vani, then you are getting help. Sudama. So there is no question of ever separation as long as the disciple follows the instruction of Guru. Prabhupada. No. Chakshudan dilo jai. What is the next one? Sudama. Chakshudan dilo jai. Janme janme Prabhu se. Prabhupada. Janme janme Prabhu se. So where there is separation, who has opened your eyes, he is birth after birth your Prabhu. This is very important for us to understand and appreciate. That particular spiritual master who has really opened our eyes to the transcendence, he is Janme Janme Prabhu se. Apparently Prabhupada has forgotten the word Janme Janme Prabhu se here, right? No. He made the devotee chant. So we should clearly have that understanding. We should not speculate. Prabhupada is saying, no chakshudan dilo jai. What is that next one? It's not that Prabhupada has forgotten here. Prabhupada is constantly in the bhava of Janme Janme Prabhu se. Right. So it is only for the disciple to say that sentence. He said, chakshudan dilo jai Janme Janme Prabhu se. And Prabhupada said, Janme Janme Prabhu se. So where there is separation, who has opened your eyes, he is birth after birth your Prabhu. So then here Sudama had said one interesting point here in this particular conversation. He said, your mercy spread everywhere, and if we take advantage, you told us once, then we will feel the result. Prabhupada said, yes. So the same concept Prabhupada has reiterated in a letter to Malati much earlier, some 7 years before, in a letter to Malati in 1968 on 28th May. He writes like this: the spiritual master also can be present wherever the disciple wants. A spiritual master is the principle, not the body. Just like a television can be seen in thousands of places by the principle of relay monitoring. So if you see the context, in 1968, these 3 couples, Malati, Shyam Sundar, Yamuna Mataji, Gurudas Prabhu, Mukunda and Janaki, these 6 couples were due to go to London. They were due to go to London. In 1968, after Janmashtami they go. This is few months before that. There were already discussions going on that they have to go to London. Obviously, the disciple will feel the separation. I am going away, far away from Prabhupada, to do some service for Prabhupada only, definitely. So, but how do I receive that instructions? What I should do? Whether I should talk to this person or I should preach to that person? How do you know what I should do at that time? Okay, so Prabhupada says, spiritual master also can be present wherever the disciple wants. A spiritual master is the principle, not the body. Just like a television can be seen in thousands of places by the principle of relay monitoring. So what do you mean by relay monitoring? If antenna is not there, let's go back to pre-Netflix era. In some 15-20 years back, how our television means, we used to have an antenna on top of the house, right? Maybe some of the millennials wouldn't have seen it, but it was there, just above the house we used to put the antenna, right? So if the antenna is not working, whether the television will receive that message? So, who has to take the advantage of presence of spiritual master? It is we. The disciple has to take the advantage of the mercy of the spiritual master. By what? Constantly meditating and following his instructions. So the Vani Seva, it is said as what? Meeting Supreme Personality of Godhead in the instructions of spiritual master. So this was in 1977. Prabhupada was in Bombay in the month of May. His health was failing. Few devotees said that it is better to go to Rishikesh, where there is pure pristine water of Ganga, good climate, good environment. Prabhupada could probably recover his health in that place. So all the devotees go to that place in Rishikesh. For a few days, Prabhupada, wherever Prabhupada is there, even in his ill health, what he will be doing? Vigorously preaching. Vigorously preaching. So he didn't stop his preaching there also, even though his health was not so good. So some of the many Mahesh Yogi's disciples were there. So they were all running and coming to Prabhupada and listening to his classes at that time. So that is anyway a different side point. So this was on 15th of May 1977. On that day night, this was May. In May you don't get any rains, right? In 1977. Suddenly after in the night, there was a big huge thunderstorm. Okay. Suddenly Prabhupada calls his assistant Bhaktivedanta Swami, saying that now time has come for me to depart from this world. I want to go back to Vrindavan. It was in the middle of the night. He was just, barely woke up to hear what Prabhupada is going to say. It is like a, crestfallen, everything has just fallen apart for Bhaktivedanta Swami. Just to hear this message, time has come for me to leave this world. Prabhupada said this. He says that, immediately make arrangements to go to Vrindavan. So this was in 17 May 1977, arrival address of Srila Prabhupada in Vrindavan. I read. So there is nothing new to be said. Whatever I have to speak, I have spoken in my books. Now, you try to understand it and continue in your endeavor. Whether I am present or not present, it doesn't matter. Prabhupada said he got some kind of bad omens, some kind of things wherein he wanted to tell, and he told to the devotees that he is going to leave this world. And that's how they brought him to Vrindavan. And in this context, Prabhupada has said these words. I repeat. So there is nothing new to be said. Whatever I have to speak, I have spoken in my books. Now you try to understand it and continue in your endeavor. Whether I am present or not, present, it doesn't matter. So this is one thing which we hear from Prabhupada in as late as in 1977, May 17th. Just 10 days later, all the GBCs come asking Prabhupada, what will happen to the moment after you leave this world and all of those things. That May 20th conversation happens just few days after this. So there is one more conversation. It was a question and answer session. After Prabhupada has given this particular Bhaktivinoda Thakur's appearance day lecture in 1971 in London, one Indian lady asks, is that spiritual master still guiding us after the death? Pinpointed question. Is that spiritual master still guiding us after the death? Prabhupada, yes, yes. Twice he told, yes, yes. Just like Krishna is guiding us. Similarly, spiritual master will guide. We are being guided by Krishna, by the Bhagavad Gita. Although Krishna is not physically present, so-called, Krishna is present always. So like the way Krishna is always present, even the same way spiritual master can still direct and guide the disciple even apparently after his death. This is a very specific statement and clarification given by Prabhupada in this context. So, we need to have this faith. They say, no, faith moves the mountains. That is even materially speaking. There is another statement of the Shastras which says like this: Yasya deve parabhakti yata deve tata guru tasyeve katita hyartaha prakashante mahatmanaha. This is a Upanishadic statement. What is it meaning? Yasya deve parabhakti. Like the way we have great devotion to the Lord, Supreme Lord Krishna. In the same way we have same faith and devotion to Guru. Yasya deve parabhakti yada deve tada guru tasyeva katitahi artaha. Yasya tasya means somebody who is having a great devotion to Supreme Lord and also similar devotion is having to the spiritual master. For that person, tasyeva katitahi artaha prakashante mahatmanaha. That Vedic instructions, that the Guda, the secret, the instructions which are there in the Vedas, that will be revealed to such kind of a faithful devotee, is the thing which is mentioned here. So now here we see Arjuna's forgetfulness is not bewildering him. Right? We see that Arjuna's forgetfulness of the instructions of Bhagavad Gita is also because of his separation from Krishna, which is also transcendental. So, but in our case, our forgetfulness is not transcendental, it is material. So, how do we make it transcendental? How do we make even our forgetfulness also apparently Krishna conscious? This is a question which is there. So let's read. There's a beautiful verse in the Srimad-Bhagavatam, in the 7th canto, chapter number 15, in text number 25. Just before these verses, the context is like this. Narada is instructing the Pandavas, the Yudhishthira Maharaj, about the various duties of the householders, the various duties of the brahmachari, and so many, duties and everything he is instructing. Then he was also saying that we have to control all our Arishad Vargas. The symbol of being entangled by the material nature is that what we are having, all the Arishad Vargas. So we should control all the Arishad Vargas and everything he was telling. So then Narada summarizes this with 2 verses. Rajastamasa satvena sattvam chopasemenina cha etat sarvam gurohi bhaktya purushahi anjasa jayet. All these things, whatever he has told, Narada has told, which leads to what? Rajastamasa satvena. We have to control Rajaguna and Tamoguna by Satvaguna. Sattvam cha upasamena cha. We have to get out of the Satvaguna and get into Shuddha Sattva. All of those is possible. Etat sarvam gurohi bhaktya. Just by faith and devotion to the spiritual master, gurohi bhaktya, purushaha, the living entity who is doing this, he anjasa jayet. Okay? One can immediately cross all the influences of these material modes. I'll read. One must conquer the modes of passion and ignorance by developing the mode of goodness, and then one must become detached from the mode of goodness by promoting oneself to the platform of Shuddha Sattva. All this can be automatically done if one engages in the service of the spiritual master with faith and devotion. In this way, one can conquer the influence of the modes of nature. I'll read the purport. Purport has a beautiful link with this verse. Just by treating the root cause of an ailment, there's a root cause of an ailment. So if I have a disease, the doctor will ask so many questions. Okay, what happened to you and all of those things. After doing a prashna, so much of prashna, finally he concludes that this is a disease and he gives a medicine, root cause of the ailment. So just by treating the root cause of an ailment, one can conquer all bodily pains and sufferings. Similarly, if one is devoted and faithful to the spiritual master, he can conquer the influence of Satoguna, Rajoguna and Tamoguna very easily. By Tamoguna only we get forgetful, na? Right? And by Tamoguna only we get forgetful and then we forget Krishna and remember Maya. So if one is devoted and faithful to the spiritual master, one can conquer the influence of Satoguna, Rajoguna and Tamoguna very easily. Yogis and Jnanis practice in many ways to conquer the senses, but the Bhakta immediately attains the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead through the mercy of the spiritual master. Yasya prasadat bhagavat prasado. If the spiritual master is favorably inclined, one naturally receives the mercy of the Supreme Lord, and by the mercy of the Supreme Lord, one immediately becomes transcendental, conquering all the influences of Satoguna, Rajoguna and Tamoguna within this material world. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. Sagunan samadityetan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. If one is a pure devotee acting under the directions of the Guru, see, one becomes a pure devotee just by acting under the directions of Guru. If one is a pure devotee acting under the directions of the Guru, one easily gets the mercy of the Supreme Lord and thus becomes immediately situated on the transcendental platform. So daily in our life, while acting, we have to observe. In 5.17 in Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada says in the purport, 4.17, not 5.17, wherein there's a discussion about what is karma, what is akarma, what is vikarma. Prabhupada says like this wonderfully in that 4.17. I'll just conclude before this. Karmano bodhavyam. Yes. If one is serious about liberation from material bondage, one has to understand the distinction between action, inaction and unauthorized actions. Yes, we have to know this. One has to apply oneself to such an analysis of action, reaction and perverted actions because it is a very difficult subject matter. One has to apply oneself to this understanding of an analysis of action, inaction and forbidden action. So if one has to apply oneself to these things, what we have to do? Constantly. Because every moment I am seeing, I am hearing, I am doing something, I am in the midst of actions. So if I constantly meditate upon how I should actually act in line with the instructions of the spiritual master, then automatically we are getting transcendental. That's what is being told. Purushahi anjasa chayet. So in that way, even if we apparently forget something, if you're constantly throughout our life meditating upon the instructions of the spiritual master will ensure that we will be always attached to him, attached to Krishna. So that should be our constant endeavor. In the next verse, Narada says, the spiritual master should be considered to be directly the Supreme Lord because he gives transcendental knowledge for enlightenment. Consequently, for one who maintains the material conception that the spiritual master is an ordinary human being, everything is frustrated. His enlightenment and his Vedic studies and knowledge are like the bathing of an elephant. If we think that A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada is no longer there, he left this world in 1977, November 14th, it is nothing but Kunjara Shauchavat. Okay? Because we cannot maintain material conception of spiritual master. That is what we have to understand here. That is what actually Arjuna is trying to tell here, that we can constantly be under the instructions of Bhagavad Gita, of Krishna, of Prabhupada, of the spiritual master, and then ourselves we can become successful in life. Prabhupada says here, this is the highest perfection of life. What is that? One should adjust the activities of life in pace with the mission of the Lord. How do you know the mission of the Lord? By doing the instructions of the spiritual master. And how do you know whether you are following the instructions? By following the Vani Seva, with the mission of the Lord. And by doing this, one is sure to return back home, back to Godhead. This is the highest perfection of life, as Srila Prabhupada said. With that, I would like to conclude. If anybody has any questions, I will answer. Yes, please. I'm not able to hear. Can you repeat again, please?
So the first question is like, how we know that spiritual master is pleased? And you said like, if you follow the instruction, then he is pleased. Then how is, do we need to verify that, or like, because our mind, I may think, Prabhupada is pleased. How we know that he is actually pleased?
Yes. As devotees, we should always be humble, thinking that actually that I may not be following the instructions of the spiritual master. I have to be constantly checking. So Prabhupada has given us not only his books, he has also given his Krishna Consciousness Society. I would actually request the devotees to go through a lecture given by Prabhupada on this verse. It's a very important lecture. In that there is one extract is there. I will just read that extract. Therefore, we have named this Krishna Consciousness Society, not Krishna Consciousness only. See this? Therefore, we have named this Krishna Consciousness Society, not Krishna Consciousness only. Krishna Conscious Society. A society is so beneficial, we should understand. So in this way, Ata Bhajana Kriya Anartha Nivritti Syat. If we prosecute our devotional activities and keep our association with the devotees, then we can be free from the sinful activities. And when you are completely free from the sinful activities, then we get Nishtha. Yes, it is full faith. Now, we are having lack of faith on about our own actions here. Whether I have followed the instructions of the spiritual master properly or not. That's why Prabhupada has given even the Krishna Conscious Society also, wherein we have many Vaishnavas. They are also following the orders of the spiritual master. They are also trying to follow the orders of the spiritual master. And Prabhupada has given a system. During his very physical presence in 1970, he has come out with direction of management. How there is a system of temples, temple president, there is an appointment of GBCs, elections happening every 3 years. So that system Prabhupada has established during his time for 7 years. So similarly, we can check with the Vaishnavas who are in the society of Krishna Consciousness Society and check whether we are actually following. Hope I have answered. What was the second question?
You said, Prabhu, a disciple can have the spiritual master wherever they want. So wherever they want, spiritual master can be there for them.
Yes.
So if somebody is practicing outside alone but he is still following the instruction, does that mean Prabhupada is with him also?
Okay, the question here is, if spiritual master is present wherever disciple wants, I am working outside, I am in a very difficult circumstance, okay, always in the modes. How do I remember? Guru always. Actually, Guru is more merciful than us. Guru is more merciful than our want. So always spiritual master want us to learn. When Bilvamangal Thakur in his previous life as a person who is going behind a prostitute, where is he? He is not in office workplace. Okay. He is going behind a prostitute. Okay. And the prostitute came in the form of Guru. Guru came in the form of prostitute at that particular instance and said a statement that the kind of attachment you have with me, if you have the attachment with Krishna, what would happen to him? Immediately he became alerted. So actually Prabhupada is constantly giving us the instructions. Unfortunately, our hearing tendency, our hearing aptitude is not sufficiently evolved. It is said in somewhere else in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that Guru's presence is there where the disciples' hearing tendency is there. So, that is the principle which we have to understand. We have to constantly see where is my hearing tendency. in front of the Lord, I am reading so many verses. If I am remembering something else, it means my mind is not there here, my mind is somewhere else. Krishna Prabhupada is saying here, the mind should not forget him. But we are constantly forgetting, even in presence of the Lord, while reading some of these verses. Right? So that's why we have to constantly see. Yes, somebody else had a question here. Yeah.
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
So the question here asked is, the presence of Guru in the form of Vani Seva and Vapu Seva, is it achintya, inconceivable and non-different? Prabhupada has already mentioned that it is non-different. Spiritual master and spiritual master instructions are non-different. In that way, it is achintya. Definitely, this transcendence, how it is, is obviously it is achintya. It is inconceivable to us. But Prabhupada has given that a clear statement that spiritual master and spiritual master instructions are non-different. In that way, there is one verse in the 11th canto wherein, I don't remember the verse exactly, the Sanskrit. The meaning is that the great sages are constantly glorifying the Supreme Lord, who has come out in the form of a spiritual master and also guiding within as Chaitya Guru, constantly. So, the Lord is always merciful and is trying to always take us out of this world. Yeah. Another Sammata question.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yeah.
Prabhu, in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Dehinosmin yata dehe kaumaram mevanam chara. So the soul transfers from one body to another body. In the same Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Achala, the soul is immovable. So how to understand this?
Yes. It's a question which is always bothering many of us, that the question asked is that Dehinosmin yata dehe kaumaram yavanam jara, that verse which Krishna says that the jiva is accepting various forms of body. And in just few verses later, Krishna says jiva is achala, immovable. So how do we understand that? So there are so many meanings in that. I am not necessarily competent to answer that. But there is one a letter Prabhupada has written to Madhudvisha Prabhu in 1972, somewhere in July, wherein the same question comes. What happens to Jiva? Is the Jiva in the spiritual world now, or Jiva is in this material world? All that kind of questions, elaborate questions, Madhudvisha Prabhu asks, because there was a huge rearing debate was going on in ISKCON in those days. Where are we now? Are we now in spiritual world, or are we now in material world? Okay. Prabhupada gives a very elaborate answer, and he gives the example of Kaka Thalia logic, or crow and tall fruit logic. You can search in the Veda base or in the Vanipedia, crow and tall fruit logic. It's a very big elaborate thing because we are running out of time. Prabhupada says the matter of fact is that even though we may be in the spiritual world in the past or now, and because of being illusioned, if you are in spiritual world, you are immovable, na? Huh? Apparently. Huh? But you are illusioned in this material by our what you call identification. We are identified in this body. Otherwise, we are not in this body. We are by our identification, we are stuck in this body. Right? So Prabhupada says, all this analysis is fine. At this point in time, we should understand that we are in material world. We are in material world, and now we have a important definition which Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given. Jiver Swarup Hoy Nityar Krishna Das. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given a functional definition of soul. Means what? Jiver Nitya Das, Krishna Nitya Das. Our job is to do devotion service. Our constitutional position is to do devotion service. So as Jiva, wherever you are, your position is not changing. Whether you are in material world or in spiritual world, it is not changing. So that's what we have to understand. Any other questions? Okay. So Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad-Bhagavatam ki jai.